Hello and welcome to another Cork and Taylor Wine Podcast. Luke Taylor here, back again. It's been a while since I left you, but I'm excited to be back. We are going across the globe, but just don't forget to subscribe, rate, review. Also, want to thank Vineyard Fresh for being the official sponsor of the Cork and Taylor Wine Podcast. Drink what you want, when you want, with 100% food grade, safe Aragon gas. They don't use needles. It might not be sexy, but it's effective. So we got a really neat guest. They actually, I've worked with this group before, and they said we've got this fine gentleman who is the chairman / owner of this winery that I fell in love with years ago with their Falanghina. And if you don't know what Falanghina is, we're going to talk about it. They've got some really dynamic wines, really eclectic stuff. We got Antonio Capaldo from Feudi di San Gregorio. All right, I butchered it. I'm Canadian. I apologize. So, Antonio, welcome to the Cork and Taylor Wine Podcast.
Thanks a lot for having me. And of course, you are excused, but you pronounced it right. Feudi di San Gregorio.
No, I mean, you guys sound so great. So you're doing a little market visits. You're in Chicago right now. I'm in Akron. It's great that we can connect through Zoom. I guess, how's it going? How long are you here in town? What are you doing? I mean, is this kind of your typical week of life as a chairman of a wonderful winery in Campania region?
Yeah, I think it's. I'm staying for a week, basically in Chicago area. Usually, we do this kind of market visits 4 or 5 times a year in the U.S. and then in the other markets. And then, of course, the rest of the time we need to take care of actually making the wine. So my life is split between these two activities. On one hand, the winery, the management, and in particular, given that the weather is increasingly crazy, so handling the succession of seasons throughout to get to the harvest. And then we try to bring our wines out there because we need, you know it very well. We need to be the first ambassadors of what we produce.
Mm-hmm. So you established the winery in 1986. It was your family and another family, and it's a really interesting story, kind of why the winery started. So tell us a little bit about the foundings and kind of impacting the local economy, which is really the kind of the focus of it.
Yeah, it's actually the same family. So actually they were my family, but then one of my own, she married a man, and his family was also involved. So in some sort it was the same large family with 2 different family names. But
do you guys like each other? You guys like each other, I hope?
Yes, we like
Okay,
each
good.
other.
Just want to make sure.
No, we liked each other. I mean, then over time, we started in 8. Now we are just 2 shareholders. Over time, one bought the others. But I think we liked each other. Each one was doing was playing a different role. Because the whole idea started, no one was in wine before, which in Italy is a shame. You start something in 86, you don't have 20 generation behind your shoulders. You are a relatively newcomer. But actually, it's interesting because one end, we started this because in 1980 we had an earthquake in the area that devastated the area. So the idea from my family was to invest back in something that was traditional in the region. Everybody was growing vines and grapes. Not many were transforming into wines. So it was part of our tradition. It was also it's also a kind of activity that is labor intensive because you need to work the vineyard. So it was also a way to create employment in the area. And my dad, there were 11 brothers and sisters. So you can imagine the typical Southern Italian family. So many of those participated to the start of Feudi. And I think this part of the community link has been consistently with us since the start. That we do something, and it's quite common in wine. Now you do something very tightly connected with your terroir and territory. In our case, also strictly connected to our community. That's why we have a big, benefit corporation, B Corp program, because we believe that we cannot flourish if we don't, we don't live in a synergic relationship with the community. So that's basically what brought us to start. And I think it's interesting because in connection with our birth, we were the 6 bottlers in the area, 6 bottlers in the area. Many were growing vines, but no one was bottling them. And now there are 150. So in these 40 years, almost 40 years, our trajectory, I think, made also encouraged also other producers to bottle wonderful wines from indigenous grapes of Campania.
Yep, yep. So what is the region? What kind of grape would you say is the region known for? Like, is there one major varietal or is there multiple? Like, in your opinion, what is the kind of the grape that will kind of stand on Campania's kind of chest?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you have a set of varietals, mostly four in the area. Then Italy in general, it's a crazy, even mess, I would say, of indigenous varietals, now, which makes the beauty of this country and also the complexity to understand what you're drinking, because between appellation, varietals, name of producers, regions, sometimes it's not as easy as the French, but we love it like this because it provides an incredible variety. Now in Campania, first of all varietals are indigenous, so you don't find, Merlot or Chardonnay or
Yep.
Sauvignon Blanc. You don't find it, and all varietals have an history. They came from the Greek or the Romans. So big story, 2000 years, and in Roman, in Latin textbooks, they were already mentioned some of those. So we have a great story. And when you asked me what's the most important, I would have told you probably 10, 15 years ago, there was Aglianico, the red varietal behind, Taurasi and some of the great single vineyards
Yep.
that we produce and the region produces. Today, I will tell you that it's mostly balanced between Aglianico, but also the white wines. The other three are white varietals. At Falanghina, you have Greco di Tufo, the appellation, and Fiano di Avellino is the appellation. And I will tell you that because of the growth of the white wines around the world, linked to climate trends, but also cuisine trends, I think the whites probably, and Falanghina in particular, because of, I think, the name, the style, the fact that it's quite versatile both for aperitif and for food, whilst Greco and Fiano are more, structured and food wines. I think
Yep.
probably Falanghina is the one that is mostly known today to be the flagship of Campania.
Yeah, yeah. And I put a little bit in my glass. So tell me about your Falanghina. I mean, it's
I do the
2020,
same with you, Luke.
2023. Yep.
Yeah.
This is the wine that I first heard of you guys. Um, and I love the nose. I just love the nose.
Yeah, it's a first of all, it's our number one wine in terms of volume today, and in particular in the US, is the one that is most best appreciated, I would say. It goes well, I think, by the glass, but also when you have a meal. But I think, and also it has a very nice sound, the name. So I think also this helps. It sounds Italian, it sounds joyful, which is at the end of the day is what we are looking into in wine. But I think at the same time, it's a quite serious white wine, because often in white wines, everything is in the nose and then the mouth, doesn't follow, or you have residual sugar sometimes in the mouth, which is nice at the beginning because it makes the wine heavy, important, but then you don't drink the second glass. Now, what's nice about Falanghina is that you have the bouquet that you smell, you actually find back the same complexity in the mouth. And because it grows on volcanic soils with very, surprisingly for the south, very heavy rainfalls, high freshness. So all the characteristics for having acidity, which is the bad word, but actually freshness is much nicer in wine. You have enough to taste almost salty because of the volcanic soil, and you have this freshness. So the wine is really, really nice to drink, by the glass and have a second glass, which at the end, when if you ask me, my philosophy of production is, I want to get someone, the people who drink my wines, they want to be happy to have a second glass. That's regardless of the value of the wine, the price, the rarity. In all wines, what we try to give it is this. And I think we were lucky because in our region, it's pretty natural because we are high on hills. We have a lot of rain. We have continental climate, not really Mediterranean. And at the same time, we have wonderful soils we grow our vines on. So all this helps to get what we want.
Yeah. I would think that you'd want people to have 3 or 4 glasses of this because it's so pleasant.
Yeah, I think really so. Pretty. I think it's a wine that is very pleasant, and I think the mouth is at the same level as the nose. Now, I don't know
Yeah.
if I mean, I think it's a semi, we call it semi-aromatic varietal. It's not like a Sauvignon Blanc, or like there are varietal, or a Moscato. There are varietals that have the nose is even more impressive, but it's very diversified, the kind of flavors that you smell. And at the same time, as I said before, I think in the mouth, you have structure, which at the end of the day is important.
Mm-hmm. I could bathe in this wine with a straw.
You
I
say
really
so?
could. It's good. It's just, I've always liked it. It's just, it reminds me of like when I was in Crete or in Italy. It's just, it takes you to a really happy place. And it's a wine that it's so unique, the characteristics and the style and the taste and the mouthfeel, that it's like you said, it's not a Sauvignon Blanc. It's not a Chardonnay. It's not a Pinot Gris. It's not a, like, there's just something so unique. And that's why I love Italian white grapes, white varietals, because they're so unique. And it's amazing to me, like in the United States, we are right now, you can grow Merlot anywhere, right? I mean, you really can, and they grow it everywhere. Washington, Oregon, obviously California. In Italy, it's like one region grows Merlot. You're not growing Merlot. I mean, are you growing Merlot in your part of the woods?
No, no, no. We have 1 hectare because historically it was planted, but it's 1 hectare out of 300.
Yeah.
You find Merlot in Tuscany, of course, in particular in Bulgaria, when you have
Yep.
this, you have Merlot, Cabernet, and then you find it in some places north.
Yep.
But otherwise, so Veneto, Friuli, but otherwise you don't find very often Merlot in Italy. No? By the
Yep.
way, wonderful varietal, but as you say, um, in our areas, you have such an history of indigenous grapes associated with specific soils and climates, so terroirs, that it's a pity to not to respect this.
Right. Right. How many different indigenous varietals do you think there are in Italy?
No, I can tell you that I can tell you that only in the south there are 400. 400 means 350 more than what you find in France, for instance, just in the south. Then some of those disappeared, and probably for a good reason. Some of them they have a very small presence. But if you think about, even in Italy, there are at least 120, 150 varietals meaningful, meaning that you have a decent amount of bottles, you have a good range of producers producing them, and that's the beauty of our country. I think sometimes we make things too complicated because we have varietal and the appellation, and sometimes the appellation are not consistent with the varietal, even it's 100% the same varietal, so you don't understand why you don't have the same name. Sometimes it's really a complexity. But I think once you pass this uh, first wall, then Italy is full of surprises and is incredibly rich in everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't you think half of these varietals are all the same with a different name?
Yeah, I mean, actually, genetically they are quite different, though.
Are they?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. They
That's
are.
pretty
They
crazy.
are quite different. I mean, then of course, I mean, take Greco for instance. Greco di Tufo is our varietal, no, in the Tufo area. Then you have Grechetto, then you have Grecanico, but they're very different. One of them is aromatic, the other one, and DNA analysis shows that they are very different because most of them they started 2 millennia ago to diversify and in a way blend with other varietals coming from the east. So over time, throughout all this time, they became quite different. If you ask me, is the origin the same? Of course, it's the same. Probably the origin is 3 or 4 different biotypes, no, 5 probably. But definitely today they are quite different. And the beauty and the problem. I mean, I'm saying beauty in terms of quality, curiosity. Then commercial problem sometimes is that in Italy we never emphasized common elements, but we rather emphasized specialties. So even in the terroirs, we like to, which is beautiful because you have different soils, you have different areas. So you love to say, okay, this is even within the same varietal, this is an Aglianico from this area, and this is from that area, and this is from, even if they are 10 kilometers away. I like it because it is justified by the quality, but sometimes it's a commercial issue, as I was saying before, because it makes really even more complicated what we do. But Italy is a country of individualism, is a country of fragmentation, And that's, I think, is the beauty of it. You don't have two bottles of Italian wine that look or taste the same.
No.
And in wine, that for me, the pleasure of wine is not alcohol. No, the pleasure of wine is culture, is curiosity, is getting to know what's behind that bottle. I think that's a value for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you always know you wanted to get into the wine industry?
Absolutely not, because
Yeah.
I graduated in economics, then I worked in finance in M&A for 4 years, then I worked in consulting for another 10. And then in the meanwhile, there was no one from the first generation at the winery. So this was when I was 32, 2009. In 2009, there was no one from the first generation still active in the winery. So that was the moment where, I was very lucky to have this opportunity. And at the same time, I was in a period of my life where I said, uh, why don't I do something I love? Because I loved wine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back. But honestly, I thought that my life was addressed towards international corporations, multinational, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Luckily, this is my past dark side, and
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I am in the wine. And I think I was very blessed and very lucky to have this opportunity at the end of the day.
Yeah. Now, is there any other family members in the winery, or just is it
Currently,
just you?
no, it's just me.
Wow. 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 That's very interesting. So, um, yeah, it's really interesting. You either have people that have never kind of left the business, but then you have other people that, did you ever think you'd come back to it? I mean, did you ever, like, when you were, 15, 20, 25, or was it kind of like, what,
I,
if it happens, it happens. I'm not really pushing it.
yeah, I think at some sort, yes, because I am 9 years older than the winery. So the winery grew at the same time I was growing up. So
Hmm.
I was always very close. And I took my sommelier diploma. I always, when I traveled, I always look around for vineyards and wineries. So at some sort, I was very curious about it. So I thought I would be involved. Probably I didn't think I would be involved full time and alone like I ended up doing it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's
it's such
cool.
a wonderful word, So
Yeah. Oh,
how
absolutely.
how 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 come you're not interested? So of course, yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking of it.
That's awesome. So let's go to the reds here before we continue. So we got the Serpico 2016, and this is your family too. And it's a really, what I love about this bottle? Can you put chalk on it? Can you like put chalk on the bottle, like write stuff on this bottle?
Yes, you can write stuff. You can
Yeah, it's
sign
kind of
it.
like,
Yeah,
you remember the school backboard growing up, the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
blackboard?
yeah.
That's what it
The
reminds
board,
me of. Yeah, the
the
slate,
blackboard.
whatever it is.
Now it's all electronic, I think.
Well, let's just pretend. And they have nice desks in school too. They have all nice stuff in the school. I see my kids' school, and I'm like, this is nice. We had it rough.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh,
uh,
it's got a nice nose on it.
yeah, this is Aglianico, no? So the varietal I was talking about, which is one of the great varietals in Italy. Italy, in terms of indigenous grape, you have Nebbiolo in the north in Piedmont that gives birth to Barolo and Barbaresco. Then you have Sangiovese in Tuscany, so Brunello, Chianti, etc. And then you have Aglianico. Then, of course, you have many other things, as we said before. You have Primitivo, you have Nerello in Etna in Sicily. But the backbone of Italy was, Nebbiolo, Sangiovese, and Aglianico. Aglianico gives birth to an appellation DOCG that is Taurasi, but also gives birth to several single vineyards. Now, this one, Serpico, named after the town of Sorbo Serpico, so there is no reference of the Al Pacino very famous movie.
Yeah.
It's a single vineyard from 400 plants spread over 4 hectares. All these plants are pre-phylloxera. I want to show you, I don't know if you see it,
Hmm.
but then we can otherwise put the picture. But this is the picture of the vines, and you have a lady that was owning the property before us, no?
Hmm.
And the vines are 3 meters tall, 7 meters wide, the branches, some of them, and they are between 150 and 180 years old. So all ungrafted, all pre-phylloxera. So for us, this wine has several meanings. It's not every year the best Aglianico that we produce. We also have a Torasi Reserva. but every year is different from everything else. And only good years, of course, we bottle it, but every year consistently, it's a wine that stands out because of the age of the vines, because of the cultivation method, because of something special happening, because the vines could survive. If you think about this in what was happening in the US 180 years ago. So many
Oh,
things
I don't know.
changed, no?
I
In
don't
the
know.
US, in France, there was Napoleon III. Italy was
Yeah.
not even a unified country. So we had so many things going on, and they have so much history to tell that there is something special about this. But the second reason why we really love this wine is not just because of the quality, and this was one of the wines that made us very well known in the US because of that, but also because we selected all the biotypes, muscle selection, and we plant them in our new vineyards. So out of the 400 plants, we selected 30 different biotypes because they evolved over time in a different way. If you go there, they're all Aglianico, but with different leaves, with different branches. So it's a sign of the evolution. We selected 30 biotypes and we plant them in all our new vineyards that are all done through muscle selection. So in a way, this vineyard is the mother of everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
Is our nursery for new vines. So that's why this wine, I mean, that's why I love to talk about this wine, because it's not just a wine. For us, is a bridge between, our incredible tradition of the area and our past as a winery, but also our future as winemaker. By the way, it's interesting that all these biotypes selected through muscle selection, they are more resilient to climate shocks. They are more resilient to diseases than any clone could ever be, because they've been going through a lot. So that's
Yeah.
the long story short. Of course, we have been doing studies with university to understand that, but
Yeah.
I like the romantic side of it. They've been experiencing so many different things, so many different seasons throughout the years, that they tend to be more resilient to the shocks that are increasingly happening today.
Yeah. What is the ageability on this wine on Aglianico in general?
Aglianico in general is easy 30 years. When we talk about ageability, I mean, of course, we need to we need to say, okay, until for the first 20 years, the wine evolves and somehow improves. Of course, the fruit goes down, the freshness goes down, it gets a little bit more. The alcohol is probably more perceivable, but the wine improves and gets more balanced and complex. Then it can keep another 10 or another 20, but of course the wine is not going to continue improving, no?
Yeah.
But easily you can open a Taurasi or an Aglianico 30 years old, and you're not going to have a bad surprise, no?
Yeah.
If you Usually the best time to drink it is between 15 and 20 years. And that's why, for instance, Serpico, the current vintage is 16. So we release it 8 years after the harvest, 7.5, 8 years after the harvest, because we like the wine on trade to be already a wine that made a part of the journey for the
Yeah.
aging. So it's
Yeah.
already a wine that you can open and taste. A Serpico of 3 years old would be very difficult because the level of acidity would be very impactful. So it would be a wine much less pleasant to drink than it
Yeah.
is today, the 16.
Yeah. It's really pretty. It's really pretty.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, what I like about this is what I always say, it's a piece of history. There are not many in Europe. There are very few vineyards like this one. There is this movement now, the All Vine Conference, the attention to all vines, because they not only because they are more sustainable and protecting them is more sustainable for the environment, but because they tell a story. You have some examples in Southern America, in particular in Chile, but overall, vines that old are really, really rare. So you're drinking also somehow a piece of history. But at the same time, Aglianico is a massive varietal, no, very rich in everything, rich in color, rich in tannins. But if you harvest at the right times, they are soft, so they're not rustic, they're not aggressive. Rich in fruit, even if now you have a 16 is going down, but you still perceive the red fruit in the nose.
Yeah.
So it's a wine we really consider as the flagship of our red wine production.
Ooh. Yeah. I can tell the mouthfeel is just, I mean, it's nice, big, but it's soft and elegant. Like it's got nice tannins, nice structure. Nice fruit, nice dark fruit. I wouldn't be mad to drink 2, 3 glasses of that.
Yeah, you could. And actually, the difference with the previous wine is that you need to eat something uh, right for
I
this.
was I was
Believe.
thinking that when I took this third sip, I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
could go for some nice, like, I don't even know, like Brajol, or I don't know, just something. That's really good
Yeah,
though.
our tradition is lamb. Lamb is the traditionally meat in our area. Then, of course, the steak would be great as well. But yeah, lamb was is the historic pairing that you do in our place. And also, of course, we have a tradition in cheese aging. That is
Yeah,
also something that could go very well with
yeah,
this wine because it has also some is partially due to the aging in tonneau, but
yeah,
it's also very classic of the Aglianico, these spicy elements that are not the sweet spices of vanilla because we don't use that kind of oak and we,
right.
my God, we don't want that. It's really dark spices that are
Yeah,
also very typical of the varietal. So with the aging, we tend to preserve and emphasize that. And these spices help a lot in thinking of different pairings, and that's why also with cheese is a very nice, of course, it's very nice pairing with this wine, red
yeah,
wines in general, but with this wine in particular.
yeah. I can see that. I can see that. So we do a little kind of like speed bonus round. I'm going to ask you 7 quick questions. Just give me some quick answers. Some will be more thought provoking than others. They're not difficult. So the wine you guys make that best describes you.
This one, Serpico,
Okay.
because of what I said, no, because of the it tells a story. At the same time, it's a new story. The fact that we're preserving all vines, so it tells
Okay.
our short story, but also the longest story of the territory.
Okay. Favorite vintage, least favorite vintage.
Least favorite 2020, very hot, and COVID was tough for everybody. So
Yep.
the favorite 2001 and 10.
Really? Why?
2001 because for me it remains to date the best vintage for Aglianico. I experienced it personally. 2010 was my second vintage at the winery, and it was roughly at the same level.
Okay. One word to describe Campania.
A surprise.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to
Yeah,
to
elaborate on it. Yeah, why surprised?
a surprise because you in the wine industry it's a surprise because you expect sunny the beach Amalfi Coast Capri, then you expect to find um, I don't want to say not industrious people that don't want to work, people that and on the contrary in the wine in our area that is enclosed by mountains in the central part, first of all, no beach, no sea, cold temperature, but at the same time a very serious community of farmers that keep doing the job that they were doing for centuries. That is something quite unusual in Europe. And wines that don't speak what you expect from the south. So not hot wines with very high alcohol, but actually wines that mostly speak about, in a simplification, the northern hemisphere.
Okay. Okay. Biggest misconception of Italian wines.
Uh, that it's hey, that it's colorful, um, but not as good as the French. So that is yeah, that is a nice alternative, is a discovery, but it's not as good as the French at the end of the day, which I'm not convinced. And
Yeah.
of course, I have enormous respect for the top names of France, and I have an incredible respect for the appellations such as Champagne or Burgundy that are really unique. But overall, I think Italy is selling its wine at one third in value on average than France, and I don't think this is deserved. I mean, we deserve it as salespeople, but we don't deserve that in terms of quality.
Well, people think the more you spend or the higher the price wine, the better it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, which is partially true.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, to a certain extent, it's true. I mean, we are talking on average, so we are
Yeah.
talking of wines that are relatively cheap, in general. But But I think at the end of the day, I mean, if you take out the status effect of money, which is another story, you spend $1,000 or $500 for a wine, then I mean, let's not talk about quality. We're talking about something else. Of course, they better be good, of course, but we're talking also about something else. I think on the rest, I think it's right because you have more money to invest. You have more. So I think the issue with Italy is that this this uh, this difference with the France and this fact that we don't have the same value is not helping us to continue investing on quality, which I
Yeah.
think it's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. Favorite food and wine pairing?
Mozzarella with Greco di Tufo.
Oh, mozzarella.
Sorry, it's almost lunchtime. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Some of your favorite wines, not named Feudi di San Gregorio.
Oh, I have plenty. I'm in Italy. I love from Piedmont. I really love Barbarescos from the top names, from Conterno, from Gaia, but
Yeah.
Produttori di Barbaresco. Barbaresco is a wine that I love because it's very elegant, but it has a hell of a character. So it's my favorite appellation. Then there are uh, Fontodi, Le Pergole Torte. There are a few names in Tuscany that I love. And then if I go outside Italy, I go, of course, I love Champagne and I love Riesling from Mosel Mosel
Yeah.
and Alsace. So I have to tell you that in white wines, my favorite, that's also a little bit our inspiration. And we are lucky because we have a climate that is not actually that different. But Riesling is probably my favorite varietal in white wines.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. Have you tried to plant Riesling grapes in the vineyard?
I mean, personally, I would have loved to, but I think it would be a mistake. So no, we haven't tried it.
Okay. So the big thing with the wine industry in California is how the younger generation is not drinking as much wine as, let's say, people in their 40s and 50s and 60s once did at 20s and 30s. I guess what is one thing you guys are doing to attract new and maybe younger wine drinkers? Is there anything different you guys are doing, or are you just kind of business as usual?
I think we are not doing enough. I think, of course, we. I think, of course, there are two things that I think the young generations are sensitive to. One is wine tourism, culture, art. So the fact that you connect wine with a broader spectrum, no? Because you may drink a wonderful herbal gin or whatever, but sometimes there is no story behind it. Sometimes there is, but you have just an incredible marketing or a very beautiful story of a maker, which is wonderful, but you don't have a terroir, you don't have a tradition, you don't have art and design. In Feudi, you can visit, we have a contemporary art exhibition because we believe that wine is connected to art because it helps traveling through time. There are many things that actually in wine we should communicate more. We should stop doing this for self, pleasure. We should start considering this as an important element of communication because I think that then the young generation would understand more what's in wine and why this is something different than other alcoholic beverage. The second is sustainability. So explaining them that planting a vine is important actually to preserve the soil, is one of the less intense cultivation thing that you can cultivate, in particular in areas, I mean, I don't want to talk about other areas, but in areas like mine where you don't give any water to the plant. So it's actually super sustainable. It helps protecting the soil structure. And, behind the long-term approach that you have to have into wine, differently from spirits, for instance, you have to have a sustainability idea. And then people like to travel. So wine tourism, experiences, all these kind of things are important. But I think we're not doing enough. And I think we are waiting for them to grow up and understand the uniqueness of wine. But I think that's a mistake because we should do more and we should be less snobbish and, face this threat that is that the young generation are drinking less and less wine. I also believe that currently there is an issue of disposable income. That is a serious issue because at the end, if you want to get, wine is not for people that want to get drunk in general. It's too expensive. You need too much. But in this period of time, it tends to be expensive also for people who want to enjoy a wonderful evening in the restaurant or want to spend a very nice evening with the family or with the friends. So
Yeah.
I believe there is an issue also of income that in a way emphasizes what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So last question I have for you. I love your labels.
Yeah.
I love the labels. You've got it's real pretty. I like that they're a little bit smaller
Yeah.
on the bottle. Which, some people would tell you you're crazy. It should be bigger, it should be whatever. But it really centers your eye. Tell me a little bit about your labels and kind of the design behind them.
Yeah, they are quite minimal. We like this. We like this. They stand out very clearly. Sometimes they're more complicated to read. They don't give enough information on the
Right.
front, but at the same time, they stand out as a brand. The story of the label is pretty interesting. I mean, first of all, the labels depict a mosaic. Usually, you have a mosaic on the
Yep.
top, a Byzantine mosaic. So Byzantine art was the contemporary art, such as you can say Damien Hirst today or the contemporary art today, at the time of Gregory the Great, the Pope. We are called Feudi di San Gregorio because historically in our area, the monks started making wine at the time of Gregory the Great. It's the 6th century. So selecting these Byzantine mosaics tell a part of our story. But then the design of the labels have been conceived by a genius of design, and our connection with design has always been very strong. The name of this guy that passed away, unfortunately, now 6-7 years ago, the name is Massimo Vignelli. He was born in Italy. He was spending in his holidays in Campania, so that's why we met him. But actually, he was working in New York. He designed many things, from the Bloomingdale's brown bag
Yep.
to the underground map of New York. He's
Oh,
exposed at MoMA. He's a genius. And we are lucky because my uncle could meet him during his holidays and he convinced him to do this job. So he designed labels that are really stand out as unique. And since then, our connection with design, and we continue to host design pieces and do other collaborations, has been fueled significantly.
yeah. Yeah, they're real pretty and stuff like that. So,
I think it's important to stress that the beauty of wine is not just what's inside the bottle, but all the rest. And I think 30 years ago in Italy, it was rather the other way around. So people thought the ugliest the label, the best would be the wine, because actually people don't care about the label and they care more
yeah.
about the wine. Actually, you can care about everything, and you make a beautiful packaging for a wonderful wine.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna give you kind of the platform. Anything else you want to add or share, or um, tell
No,
your
I
story?
really hope your listeners, your podcasters, and yourself, you can travel to visit us in Campania. The winery is open every day. We have a restaurant inside. We have guest rooms. You go at our website, www.feudi.it. So I
Yep.
really hope that you can continue this journey by visiting us. I think that's the best. That's the best hope I can make today. And of course, I
Yeah.
thank you all, and you in first, for
Yep.
hosting me.
Yep. Yep. Well, I don't know if I'll ever go there because it's cold. There's no beach, and you guys like lamb.
You don't like lamb?
No. Oh God, I don't like lamb.
We do something else for you.
Well, I'll try it. I mean, if it's made, I've had lamb before where it was actually pretty good. But sometimes if you make lamb incorrectly, it's just very like I grew up in Canada and we used to have like this Australian lamb and it was just foul. It was like metallically foul.
Yeah, but trust me, you can. But anyway, you have great pasta. You have many things, so
Yeah,
we'll
yeah, yeah,
find
yeah.
a
I'm not
way to
worried about it. No
satisfy
worry.
your needs.
No worry about it. But Antonio, thanks so much. Check out the winery. Check out his wines. They're fantastic. We'll have some show links at the bottom. Don't forget to subscribe and review. Also, check out allow you to drink what you want when you want. And if you want to support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/Cork and Taylor. And we'll be back. I don't know when, I don't know why, and I don't know how, but we'll be back. And thanks for listening.